Welcome to Robin's Cruise Show. Today is the 2nd of April 2021. So we're going to be running down what's going on with the Royal Caribbean group, how NCL have changed things when it comes to crew working with the vaccine, and how the mayor of Miami-Dade has issued an ultimatum to the CDC. That and more coming up in this episode of Robin's Cruise Show. Well, Royal Caribbean is back with a bang. They are releasing the Jewel of the Seas, and she's going to be sailing from Limassol in Cyprus commencing the 10th of July 2021. She's going to be doing 7-night sailings to the Greek Isles, and it's going to be open to everyone. Well, okay, when I say everyone, what I mean is predominantly UK and European guests. Unfortunately, if you're from the US, you won't be allowed on. And this will be on sale in the UK on the 7th of April 2021. So next week that goes on sale. This is also following the release of Vision, who is going to be sailing from Bermuda in the Caribbean. So, I mean, really the Royal Caribbean group is getting going, and with the announcement of Jewel of the Seas and also the Vision of the Seas. The interesting one with these is that, well, with regard to Jewel, as far as I'm aware, you will need to be vaccinated to go on board. So anyone over the age of 18 will need to have been fully vaccinated. Any children that are travelling, they are allowing kids, but it does mean that they will need to present a negative PCR test up to 72 hours before they travel. Now, this is a very interesting one because it seems like the Royal Caribbean group now are really pushing forward. Obviously, Royal Caribbean being Azamara, Royal Caribbean and Celebrity. They're releasing the Celebrity Apex, and she's going to be sailing from Athens and going again to the Greek Isles and Cyprus, calling at places like Mykonos, Santorini. The other itinerary actually is going to be the Greek Isles and Israel. So she's actually going to be calling in at Haifa, Santorini, and also to access Tel Aviv, which is going to be really, really cool. Again, you're going to need to be fully vaccinated to be on that ship. Again, with same across the Royal Caribbean fleet, to be honest with you. You will need to be fully vaccinated. Any kids travelling, they will need to have a negative PCR test. So it does appear that in general the cruise lines are actually getting going again. I mean, we've also seen that Cunard has actually come out and said stuff. Now, we've not heard anything from Cunard for months. They've not said a thing. They've not said what they're doing. I mean, we've seen the Queen Mary 2 anchored off the coast of the UK, but apart from that, yeah, it appears that they're going to be launching out in July 2021. They're going to be sailing the Queen Victoria. Again, this is going to be like Princess and P&O, cruises to nowhere. Well, seacations, I suppose. I don't know whether that's just coined by Princess, but I suppose you can just refer to that to everything going out from Southampton in the next few months, really. Yeah, I think it's going to be really, really good. I actually genuinely think that this is going to be a major turning point for the UK, and I genuinely cannot wait. So guys, you've probably seen in the news today that there have been quite a lot of developments when it comes to the CDC and their framework and also cruising. So Daniela Levine-Carver had a call with the director of the CDC yesterday, and she said that she is very encouraged by the outcome of the discussion and went on to say that she was impressed by the director's knowledge of the industry and the empathy that he had towards the economy that had been affected, especially in Miami. But not only that, you've got to bear in mind the crew as well. What she also said, which is actually, to be honest with you, the most interesting, is that the CDC is going to be issuing new guidelines. Now, this is really promising because no doubt many of you know about the framework that the CDC imposed back in October. So this framework set out that cruise ships could start going from America, so predominantly Port Canaveral and Miami, once they had followed through with a few steps. The first of which was to make their way to US waters, after which the crew would need to quarantine for 2 weeks and prove that there were no cases of coronavirus on board the ship, after which they were then free to start doing test sailings. And what these test sailings were was basically that the cruise ships could go out with crew and run a test sailing as if it was in full operation. Once that had been completed and signed off by the CDC, then they could invite media and also industry on board the ship to conduct a secondary test sailing. After that point, the ships would then be signed off by the CDC, and it meant that they could continue cruising. Now, there was a meeting last week where there was the director of the CDC, Christine Duffy, the head of Carnival Group, and a load of other high-up industry execs. And within this meeting, it was discussed how to progress forward with cruising out of America. Obviously, when you see that you've got cruising running, well, it's going to get going all over the world. I mean, Royal Caribbean Group in the Med, you've got cruise lines out of the UK. I mean, the natural progression of things would be to try and get cruising going out of America. However, the CDC said no. The framework itself was supposed to expire in November 2021. The CDC held true to this. Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, actually has come out and said that unless the CDC get going with cruising and allow it to happen, he's actually going to sue them. I mean, I'm not sure how much progress that's going to make. Daniela Levine Carver, the mayor of Miami-Dade, actually had a bit of a pot shot at DeSantis, saying the call she had with the CDC was a bit more progressive than suing them. We'll see what happens with that, but in my mind, I see this as being a major step forward with cruising out of America. It's brilliant. It really does see that there's a possibility of moving forward, and I genuinely think that's good. It's progress. So just following on from what I was saying about the CDC, what's interesting is in the last hour they have actually announced that Americans can travel again. Now let me just clarify this. So what they've actually said is that Americans who are fully vaccinated can now travel. They are saying that if they leave the USA, then they don't need to have a PCR test. Well, obviously they will if they are going somewhere in the world that requires a PCR test. But apart from that, they don't need one. They do need to wear masks when they travel. And when they come back to the USA, then they'll need to make sure they have a negative PCR test when they arrive. Now, this is really interesting. And personally, I see this as a massive move by the CDC. The cruising is going to come back. And it's going to do it probably in the next few months. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this in much more detail in the video I'm going to make tomorrow. So we've had a bit of news from Norwegian Cruise Lines, and that is that all crew must be vaccinated in order to work on board. Now, what they've said is that the crew can have one of the 4 major vaccines available currently, which would be Pfizer, Moderna, Oxford AstraZeneca, and it's a Johnson & Johnson vaccine as well that's available predominantly in America. So basically what they have said is that the crew would need to be vaccinated in order to work on board the ships. Now, the interesting point about this one is that the crew would need to have one of these 4 approved vaccines. If crew were coming from other countries where these vaccines were not available, Norwegian Cruise Line have kind of come out and said that, well, they might need to be vaccinated twice. Now, we're not sure how that's going to go because we don't know what the effects of that would be. I mean, this is just my opinion when I say this, but I don't quite get why. I mean, I understand them wanting to have a vaccinated crew, don't get me wrong, but in the same way, it's a case of, yeah, double vaccinating your crew. Not sure how that's going to work. They have also actually stipulated that if crew want to come and work for Norwegian Cruise Lines and they are unable to get the vaccine in their home country, they have said that they must be willing to be vaccinated on board the ship, which is fine. However, it does then rule out crew who are either unable to get vaccinated in their country and cannot have a vaccine for, I mean, there are medical reasons for this. They are then just reducing their workforce. Not sure how productive this is going to be, but we'll see. I mean, it's an interesting comment from Norwegian because Norwegian and Royal Caribbean have worked together on the Healthy Sail panel. So generally speaking, whatever Norwegian do, Royal Caribbean will do, vice versa, whatever Royal Caribbean will do, Norwegian will do. I think this is going to be how it is, and we've already seen that Royal Caribbean are launching ships in the Caribbean and also in the Med, and that's going to be with people on board who are fully vaccinated. I feel like that's probably going to be the same way that Norwegian will go, once we know when they're launching and which ships are going to be sailing where. I have a feeling predominantly it's more than likely going to. So moving on from that, Venice and the authority who have control of that area and the city. Basically what they've come out and said is that they're actually going to ban big cruise ships from sailing into Venice harbour. Now, back in 2013, they did actually ban big cruise ships who were over 96,000 tonnes from sailing into the port of Venice, which is located actually right in the centre of Venice. You actually sail up the Grand Canal to get there. I've sailed from Venice a few times, so I can tell you firsthand that it is actually a very, very beautiful cruise down the Grand Canal. However, there have been protests about this for a few years, about the people of Venice who live there saying that the wash from the cruise ships is actually eroding the foundations of the city. And as I said, there was a ban on this back in 2013, but this was actually overturned. However, they've now reinstated it. So we're not sure how long this is going to last for, but I mean, I personally see it as an advance, and I think it's something that should have been done a while ago, just because as good as cruise ships are, they do have quite a large ecological effect, especially when you look at Venice as a port of call. Now guys, I'm going to wrap it up here, but I will say thank you very much for watching. If you could please drop a like on the video, it shows YouTube algorithm that I'm doing something right. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and please leave a comment in the section below just to let me know what you think of my videos, how I'm doing, etc. Anyway guys, I'm going to sign off, so I will say Robin's Cruise Show, out.